I'm Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief of USA Today, and this is Capitol Download. We're at the headquarters of the National Education Association with its president, Dennis Van Roykel. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be here.
The NEA made waves at your convention last month when you called for the Education Secretary, Arne Duncan, to resign. Why did you do that?
There's a lot of frustration out there with the testing, with the overemphasis and the use of those test scores. And I think as Secretary of Education, they focused on him.
We have asked Secretary Duncan to be our guest on Capitol Download. We'll hope he'll accept us and tell us his view of things. Is your issue really with Arne Duncan, or is it with Barack Obama? I mean, do you have any sense that Arne Duncan is not doing exactly what Barack Obama wants him to do?
Our differences have been at times over how best to get there. And I don't think those are bad disagreements. I think that discussion is good. Out of that, hopefully we'll come up with a better solution than maybe either one of us thought.
There was a big California decision in June, Vergara versus California, where the California statutes that provided protections for teacher tenure were thrown out. And Arne Duncan issued a statement that essentially welcomed the decision, said it was an opportunity. Was that a sort of a last straw for the NEA?
But that first day when he said it was a solution to a problem, I think that did cause a lot of reaction. They believe that the solution to what's keeping kids from succeeding is due process for teachers. It's so misguided, and it's not going to change a bit for kids. There's not one piece or evidence of research that ties teacher tenure or due process laws to student achievement. And why would you focus there?
You do have Democrats, some Democrats, increasingly raising questions, taking positions that the NEA disagrees with. There's a former CNN correspondent, Campbell Brown, who has started a new group, the Partnership for Education Justice, that has had some Democrats line up behind her, that supports a parent's lawsuit that challenges New York State's teacher tenure laws. Here's a statistic she repeatedly cites. She says 91% of the teachers in New York State are rated effective or highly effective, but only 31% of the kids are reading, writing, and doing math at grade level. And she says, how does that compute? What do you say to her?
She's assuming that there's a cause and effect. She believes that the percent of teachers who are competent is a direct correlation and a cause and effect of the students who achieve well. Teachers do make a huge difference in the classroom, but it's not the only thing. Her focus on that is so wrong-headed and misguided, and not one student will benefit from that. What they ought to focus on is really four things. Number one, school readiness. Number two, we have to have high standards and a rich curriculum in every single school. We don't. Number three, you have to focus on the learning conditions. We have schools that no politician or Campbell Brown or anyone else would send their relatives, their sons, daughters, nieces, and nephews to those schools, and that's wrong. The fourth area is a quality workforce. If there is someone who shouldn't be there, yes, they should be gone. But more importantly than that, we've got to change who comes in to the profession. They need to deal with quality at the front door. The idea that in this country, district after district allows unlicensed people to be teachers of record is wrong. We would never hire an unlicensed electrician or plumber or doctor or lawyer. Why in the world do you hire unlicensed people to be a teacher of record to kids, millions of kids in this country? It's wrong.
I think no one would argue that teacher tenure is the only solution to the problems that affect public education. But the Wall Street Journal did a story the other day that said in New York City, of 826 disciplinary cases after they were adjudicated, only 40 teachers were fired. Is it too hard to get rid of an incompetent teacher now?
In states, most states, it's 3 to 5 years before you even have a right to due process. So when you hire someone, you have 3 to 5 years to evaluate them, to assess whether or not you believe this is a career teacher that you want to keep employed. If after that 5 years you say yes, then they have a right to due process. I don't think that's unwieldy at all.
Do you feel that unions in general, and the teachers union in particular, are under new fire, under more fire now than you've been in the past?
We are under more fire, and It's sad to me. They're a group of profiteers who are looking at a $6 billion industry and saying, my gosh, we got to figure out a way to get our piece of that pie. And so they are trying to privatize everything. And I think what we've seen is the private management of public schools. I think there's enough evidence that says right now that there is something dramatically wrong. The C word for corruption is there. If the same percent of public schools who are not charters and privately managed had the same percentage of incidents of corruption and misuse of public funds, there would be an outcry across this country.
You were elected president of the NEA in 2008.
Correct.
The first presidential election year for Barack Obama. Have you been surprised by the education policies this administration has followed?
Some of them, yes. This economic recession. It came with such a vengeance and so much harder than people anticipated, and the impact on education was huge. And out of that came the American Recovery Reinvestment Act, and part of that was about $4 billion in Race to the Top, which drove many of those policy changes. They wouldn't have gone that fast without those resources behind it, where it focused on using test scores to evaluate teachers, which student achievement should be used as part of a teacher's evaluation, but not high-stakes standardized tests that are given once a year in language arts and mathematics.
Dennis Van Merkel, thanks so much for joining us on Capitol Download.
Good to be here. Thank you.